So, welcome to podcast Beyond the Bottom Line, conversations about life, business, and what really matters. Today with me is going to be Mr. Barclay Bloodworth with Maverick Business Partners. And me and Barclay met actually on BNI meeting, and after that we sat in a cigar bar and spoke for I think like 5 or 6 hours about anything and everything, and that's why I decided for him to be my first guest in this podcast. Mr. Barclay, welcome.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for having me.
It was really a pleasure to talk to you the other day, and I really hope that we're going to have a great time today. So I would really ask you for a beginning just to tell more about yourself, about history of your company, and then we're going to start from there.
Okay, very good. So I've been practicing accounting for nearly 40 years, quite a while.
That's a lot.
I've been in Nashville about that long too, and I created Maverick Business Partners in December of 2019, and that actually was 3 months before the COVID was pronounced as a pandemic.
Okay, that's a good way to start.
So, well, a lot of people hear that and they'll say, "My gosh, what a horrible time to start a business," But then it was actually opportune for me because there were so many businesses, as you know, that were struggling during that time and needed help. And so we were able to step in and at least try. The goal was to try to get them through this journey of COVID. And so our plan to do that was to just try to get them at break even as far as cash flow goes, and knowing that at some point this thing's going to turn around.
Yep.
We didn't know when. None of us knew, but anyway, that was the mission, just to get them through that. How we did that was we set them up with a budget designed for their business. And we streamlined their expenses. We tightened up their margins as much as possible to get them at a place to break even, where they didn't have to put any capital in, And so then ultimately, of course, it turned around.
That's good.
And at that point, it was, most of those businesses did survive. And they were actually making more money than they had in a long time because we had streamlined those expenses. So once the revenue started coming in, they were more profitable than they had been in a long time. Some of them, they were more profitable than they ever had been.
And from what industry were mostly these businesses that you were working with them?
All different industries. Yeah, all different industries. I mean, we were, at that time, probably 6 or 7. There were restaurants, some were manufacturing, salons. It was several different industries.
Yeah, I know. Like I was working tourism at that point when COVID hit, and I know tourism, restaurants, and all sorts of stuff was hit the most. I feel like, but like, how did you manage to overcome that part with restaurants? Because like, so far I feel like they had the most problems with attracting people just to create any kind of revenue.
Right. Well, most of them went to takeouts, because they couldn't have customers coming in.
Yeah.
So they took advantage of the opportunity, to be able to or the revenue to be through takeouts. But so what we did was getting back to streamlining those margins, getting their labor. We had to let some people go.
Yeah.
And then also tightening up on their food costs. That was the first thing we did. And then working with their landlords with the lease, negotiate that, because, the landlord wanted them to make it as well.
Yeah. And they don't ask you if you have money to pay at that point or not, right?
Exactly.
That's the biggest trouble.
So that's what we did. We just
awesome.
streamlined those expenses as much as possible.
Yeah, so it's just great for me, like, to think about, like, from that perspective, like, how certain industry, like your field, like bookkeeping and any other industry, basically, like, that we kind of overlook when we're starting our business. And then actually when you see, like, that was the key, how you saved a bunch of these businesses with what you do. And I just think that's a great lesson for any of us who is starting any career, any business, and I think they can take a lot from that message, right?
Yeah, well, that became our mission after that. That was the mission of Maverick Business Partners, was to help small businesses become more profitable.
That's fascinating, actually. And like talking about that moment when you said you started Maverick company 2019, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and the other day on BNI meeting, I heard you that your goal is to have, if I'm not wrong, 300 clients in 4 years.
That's correct.
Right? So, and then we can just kind of connect with other question as well, which would be like how you scale your business. How did you know at the very first day that that's going to be your goal, or maybe you figure that out down the road, what can be your target to hit in certain period of time?
Marco, that's a great question, because at the time, our biggest obstacle at that time was logistically meeting with our clients, and we'll get to that later about what we do as far as meeting with our clients every month. But logistically, there was so much time during the day. We'd have to go to our client's place of business or their office and meet with them and review their numbers with them, the P&Ls with them. And so if there's anything good that came out of COVID, it was the virtual meeting.
Yeah.
All right. So all of a sudden, we were able to do Zoom or Teams, and instead of being limited to 2 or 3 meetings a day, we could have 5 or 6. We could double it.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's really how we realized, hey, this could be, this could be big.
Yeah.
It's unlimited to what, because the need is out there. Not just the bookkeeping, but also helping small businesses to they need, business owners need to know their numbers, and that's why we meet with them is to do that. But that provided really an opportunity for Maverick business partners to just explode, and so that's how we came up with the goal of 300 clients by 2029.
That's awesome, because that really kind of stand out to me when you see, and as I can recall, you were the only one who said what your target is and what your goal is, and I think it's really good. It kind of makes it alive, that goal, like where you're going, right? So I feel like it's way easier to achieve like versus when you really don't know what your goal is, where you going towards, and like it just kind of I felt like that was really good, that we all know now what your goal is and we can support you in that.
Yeah. Okay.
And you're like you said that basically the core of your business is bookkeeping, right? But at the same time, you have other services that you provide with your company, and probably with other services that you provide, you helped also these business owners through COVID period and after COVID period. Now, what else do you offer with Maverick's partners?
Well, we of course offer the basic bookkeeping. We do really an outstanding job with the bookkeeping. That's important because there are a lot of bookkeeping services out there.
Yeah.
But their service, from what we know from the clients that we brought in, one of their biggest complaints about their bookkeeper, well, there were 2 actually. One was they just did not do a very good job with the books and providing the numbers, or accurate numbers anyway. And then also the other was just they weren't accessible. Sometimes they never even heard from them.
Yeah.
But you know what? I'm sorry.
No,
was the question again?
So I was asking, like, what would be the other services that you provide in Maverick?
Mm-hmm. So anyway, we provide the bookkeeping, but we also provide business coaching and consulting as one of our services as well. And we do that through meeting with the client every month. Another service that we provide is fractional CFO work. This is for companies that are $2.5 million and up. They're in a growth stage, and they are at a place where they need some really serious hand-holding, with taking their business to the next level. But they can't afford to hire a full-time CFO.
Yeah.
So we offer the fractional CFO services for that reason, and it can save them a lot of money. The goal is at some point for them to get to the place where they hire their own CFO. But for now, we're providing that fractional CFO service.
And when we talked the other day, and when we were preparing for today, I asked you, like, at what point maybe is the best for business owner who's just started their business, like what would be the best moment for them to hire somebody like you to run their books and just to keep everything on that?
Well, the bookkeeping part needs to start before the business starts.
Mm-hmm.
That needs to be the first thing they do, whether they do it themselves. We use predominantly QuickBooks. Either they open up that QuickBooks account and do it themselves. I don't recommend that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of business owners think that, and this is not uncommon. They can buy a subscription to QuickBooks and become instant accountants or instant bookkeepers.
Yeah.
And they find out pretty quickly that
It's not
that is not the case.
Yeah.
And so if they don't have a background, at least in bookkeeping,
Mm-hmm.
they really need to hire a good bookkeeper. Another place where they may realize that they need a bookkeeper is where they're spending too much money. Or too much time, too much time, with trying to do the books.
Mm-hmm.
It could be, weekends or whatever, but it's time that they need to be utilizing and growing their business.
Yep.
It's one of those things that, that really needs to be farmed out. It's not just bookkeeping, but, HR services, marketing services. A lot of business owners try to do that all on their own.
Yeah,
and they realize pretty quickly that it's just more economical. It's just a lot better, if they outsource that.
That's true.
If they're staying awake at night, worrying about money because they don't know where they are, they don't know what the numbers are.
Yeah.
That's a good time. That's a good time to start thinking about hiring a bookkeeper. But really, you need to start keeping your books immediately.
As fast as you can, right?
And really, it's just more. It's really, like I said, a lot of business owners try to do it on their own, and they get 3 or 4 months into it, and they just realize, oh my gosh, sometimes 6 months into it, I just can't do that, and their books are just in.
They mess up their books and
total
make more trouble for you when you step in.
Yeah, well, I mean, it actually is more expensive for them to wait and hire us to come in to do the cleanup work.
Yeah.
Than it would have been to hire us at the onset.
Yeah, which makes sense. Actually, you're here like you're starting from scratch, and here you have to first clean, then to build something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And like you met through your career, like, and besides Maverick Partners, you had like a long career as well. It's related to finance. So like what's your opinion on people who know their craft? And for example, I had like 10 years ago when I was tour guide, and I had a bunch of colleagues who were also like amazing tour guides, and then they would open their travel agency and they would just go bankrupt, and they have to close their agency like within 6 months because they are good in one field of tourism, but they actually don't know the business side of tourism. Right. So what's your opinion on that?
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, this goes back to, making sure that you have to know your numbers. And when I say know your numbers, I'm talking you need to know what your profit and loss is. Not at the end of the year when you get your financials ready for your tax preparer, it's too late at that point.
Yeah.
You need to know your numbers from month to month. Okay. And so that's a mistake that a lot of people make, a lot of business owners make, because a lot of times it can get so far down the road that it's too late at that point.
Yeah.
Especially with cash flow. Cash flow especially.
And like, would you recommend somebody like to start their business? So I had one example in my personal life. When I started like one company, transportation company, was in Serbia also, like back in the days, and the guy, I was going to him to Bosnia, and I was asking to buy some products for him, and he's like, I see that you are young, that you're ambitious, but don't. Is that your money? I said yes. He's like, don't ever borrow money and start business. And I hear that a lot, either from banks or from family, or they burn their savings. Like how would you approach that? Like, because I mean, your experience, you deal with finance, and then you help other people to set their businesses. So what would be your suggestion to people who are, doesn't have to be necessarily young people, but anyone who is who has idea to start their own business?
First, start off with a business plan. A good, solid business plan that provides a clear path, pathway for the business, and you have to part of that setting of the business plan are setting projections, okay, And then also, of course, you're going to hear me say budget ad nauseum because
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer, in the whole budgeting process.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not doing those things, it's just it could get away from you really quickly.
And
Especially with
can
cash and
you give
especially
some?
with
Mhm.
borrowing. You were talking about borrowing.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that. Especially on site. You don't want to leverage yourself. You don't want to start borrowing funds until or have a good idea of what your revenue is going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For the next 3 to 6 to 12 months,
Yeah.
so that you can plan for that. Because so many business owners they don't, and they borrow money. They get a business loan, and before they know it, they can't take care of the debt service,
That's right.
and they go under.
And again, my personal mistakes and experiences, like when you say budgeting, I feel
Mhm.
like everyone knows what the word itself means, right?
Yeah.
But how you really budget? Because in my own experience, whatever I'm trying to budget, I always end up paying at least 20% more than I thought initially.
Well, that's why you have to keep up with it, everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When we take on a new client, there are three things that we always request from that new client. First of all, you keep the personal expenses away from the business expenses.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want them going into the same bank account and credit card account.
Yeah.
First of all, the IRS does not like that.
Yeah.
it's
You're
it's
gonna
a
be in
red
trouble.
flag. But also, it does not it does not provide healthy and reliable financials for the business. And got off track.
For budgeting, like how?
Okay, three things. Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
Three things we request from our clients. First of all, keep the personal from the business, but also number two, set up a budget. We're going to set up a budget for your business. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that's important. That's vital. And the third thing, and this is what makes Maverick Business Partners unique from other bookkeeping firms and accounting firms as well, in the fact that we actually set a time. We have our clients to dedicate a certain day, time of the month for us to meet with them
Okay.
every single month. All right, and we go over their financials. We go over their profit and loss statement for December,
Mm-hmm.
and but also their what we call the BVA, which is a budget versus actual reports.
Okay.
We look at your actual numbers for December. We look at your actual revenue, your expenses,
Mm-hmm.
and we compare that with what was budgeted for December.
Okay.
And then any major variances or anything like that, we take a look at it, and we just make sure, okay, it's all right. Why did this happen? That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a new month coming. We know what happened, and so we'll just, we're okay. It's
Okay.
accountability is
Mhm.
what it is. It really comes down to accountability
Like
for the
in a
business owner.
discipline,
Yeah,
like to really do
exactly.
what you said
Uh-huh.
that you're gonna do.
Yeah, you
That-
have to
yeah.
know your numbers as a business owner. You have to know your numbers.
And that's what I see. Like a lot of time, you talk to people and you're like, they don't know how much they pay certain things. Like how much does it cost their supplies? How much are the expenses? How much money they burn on marketing and stuff like that? They just don't have these numbers in hand. And I feel like all these numbers you should have. Like if they wake you up in the middle of the night, you should know all that, right?
They're guessing.
Yeah.
They're guessing. A lot of times they will just look at their bank statements at the end of the month
And
and
be
say,
surprised.
okay, well, this is about where I was last month.
Yeah.
But they don't know what expenses they have coming up.
Mm-hmm.
You can't go by that. You just can't go by
And so, since you're really experienced in business, what do you think, like your personal opinion, what would be the main three skills that somebody who is starting now business, like in 2025, 2026, actually, what these people they have to know nowadays? What would be the top three skills they have to know before they start even thinking about opening their own business?
Wow. Today in 2025,
Mhm.
I got to say AI.
Right.
I mean, AI, it's scaring a lot of folks,
Mhm.
but as a business owner, it can be very advantageous.
Yeah.
It's powerful. You need to be able to take advantage of it and really to become experienced with it,
Yeah.
and there are firms, there are companies out there that can help you do that, Um, if you're in the manufacturing business, tariffs.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you've got to really, I mean, tariffs. You know, it's long term. You
Mm-hmm.
know, but in the short term, if you're in manufacturing, if you're buying most of your goods from China,
Yeah.
you
then
know,
and you
then
don't know
you
what's going
need to
on.
plan for that. You
Yeah.
need to plan for that. Absolutely. Hmm.
And I had just conversation just before with a friend, like talking about AI that you just
Hmm.
mentioned, and but we met on BNI meeting where it's actually like face to face networking, right?
Hmm.
And I feel a lot of not necessarily just young generation like in their 20s, but also like people like in 30s, like 40s, and especially people who are more who follow what's going on with technology nowadays. They're
Yeah.
all about let's do online, let's do social media. Without social media you cannot do anything. And
Yeah.
there are some people
Right.
who are just afraid of all that world because it's just unknown to them, but
Hmm.
they have desire to do their business. Do you think it's possible nowadays, like in 2025 or 6, to do business if you're really if you're not that skilled in technology and stuff like that?
You outsource it.
Yeah.
You outsource it. You know, just like you do your bookkeeping.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you outsource your marketing, of course, but a lot of that has to do with digital marketing, social media. You know, I mean, it can, you know, it can be expensive, but the ROI on it can be very good. You know, but yeah, I think that digital marketing is crucial right now for a small business.
Yeah, and uh, talking about obstacles that all these business owners and you personally had probably through your career, right?
Hmm.
So what do you think that was your biggest obstacle that you had to kind of overcome in order to put your business to make some good foundation for your business?
Hmm. That's a great question. You know, I think the biggest obstacle I had when I first started Maverick was not charging for what I really needed to be charging for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I
Yeah.
was charging for a lot less,
Okay.
you know, than my competitor, and it was two things. You know, I think you know it was one thing to get my foot into the door with new clients, but also you know it was you know like you know I'm new at this. This is a new business. I just don't know that I deserve to be paid more than this,
Mm-hmm.
which is not good,
Okay.
which is not good. Um, and that's a common for a lot of new business owners.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have that confidence yet to be able to charge that price that they really deserve
Mm-hmm.
to be charging. And a lot of times the mistake that I made, I think that you know a lot of times, you know, I'll have potential clients that will look at that rate, you know, for what I'm charging for my service and say, "Ooh, it's not very much." You know,
They
maybe
don't
he's
think it's
not as
good.
very good at what he
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
does. You
They
know,
always think there's some scammer. He's really.
yeah. I mean, and that's I think that's true for a lot of new business owners.
Yeah.
You know, and you know you have to, and it's true for most of my clients. You know,
Mm-hmm.
with a new business. You know, and I stress to them, don't be afraid.
Yeah.
You know, to charge. You know, at least what your competitor is charging. You know, if you do really good work,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to charge more.
And but what would you suggest? For example, like somebody, uh, they're starting their business. They don't have any network. They don't have any market yet. That they just don't have enough customers. Like, would you suggest for these people to start like doing service for free to 10 clients, 5 clients, 20, or they should just immediately start charging people for what they do?
No, I mean it was different for us during COVID because we weren't charging our clients at the time.
Okay.
You know, if we were, it was a very small amount with the
Mm-hmm.
understanding, you know, that you know as you know as this
Mm-hmm.
thing turns around, you know, we'll you know be charging more. But I mean, so I want to make sure I understand your question. What you're asking is, should you provide free services just to get your foot in the door? Is that
Yeah,
correct?
that's true.
I wouldn't recommend that. I really wouldn't because it's difficult. You know, once you provide those free services, you know, at what point are you going to start charging them?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know,
And also I feel like whenever they're willing to pay now, they always find some other person to do that.
yeah, yeah,
Right?
that's true. You know, yeah, that's very. I mean, you know, a lot of times with startups, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I start, you know, with a very low rate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not free. you know, because I have overhead too.
Yeah, like
You
you're
know,
in the same
um,
problems like them, right?
yeah, and so you know, I'm lenient with startup businesses for that
Hmm.
reason. Here again, with the understanding that you know, once we get things going,
Yeah,
you know, then you know we're going to
obviously.
go up on that rate. But for right now, you know,
Hmm.
let's negotiate a lower rate.
And I most of the time, like everything I was doing was related to sales, like either or,
Mm-hmm.
like more or less actually, but always sales was involved in my job, whatever
Mm,
I was doing.
good for you.
And and at the beginning, at the very beginning, I just didn't feel comfortable selling people.
Yeah.
But we talked about that, I think, in cigar bar the other
Mm-hmm.
day. And at some point, I just had different approach to sales, and now I love to do that. And but a lot of people I see, like whenever you say word sales, they're just kind of get goosebumps. They don't like to be to perceived as a salespeople.
Salesperson.
And now we have a lot of these titles. It's not a salesperson, but like you go in the bank, it's not a salesperson, but it's a advisor or
Yeah, customer
consultant,
service advisor or
customer
something
service
like that.
advisor, and then
Right,
they really
right.
get in trouble. They really think that they are advisors,
Oh,
but
interesting.
they're
Yeah,
paid
yeah,
for by commission.
yeah,
Some like most of these sales job.
yeah.
And how much do you think like sales skills helped you in your business, or do you actually see yourself like selling, or how what's your approach? Like you obviously have to sell your service somehow. Like how
I
do you do that?
I do. I do. I'm not a salesperson. I'll
Mm-hmm.
tell you that.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we're business people. We're all
Yeah.
salespeople, you know. But to really grow the business, you know, I'm forming a sales team now,
Mm-hmm.
you know, to get us to that 300 client level that
Yeah.
we're talking about because I can't do that on my own,
Yeah.
you know. And so I need a sales team, you know, to help me get there.
Okay.
And so I think it's you know especially when you get to the place where you're wanting to grow, you know, and marketing is so tough,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because it's like, you know, you hear the term, you know, throw it against the wall and see if it sticks.
Yeah.
You know, it's just it's tough to find that you know that marketing firm, you know, that
Mm-hmm.
really they're out there, you know,
Yeah, but
but works really well for your company. But you know, yeah, I mean, sales. Yeah, I think you know networking is great. You know, you mentioned BNI. You
yeah.
know, BNI has been really instrumental in the growth of my
Mm-hmm.
business. You know, I'm at the place now though where I'm going to have to step it up. You know,
Yeah.
to a different level. That's why I'm bringing in the
Mm-hmm.
sales team.
Okay.
But yeah, yeah. Sales is crucial.
And you mentioned hiring your sales staff, but also like
Hmm.
you also have a marketing team, as
I
I
do.
know,
Hmm.
and you have your associates that work with you about in different fields and departments. And I I I heard two different approaches when it comes to hiring. So one approach is they're like, okay, once you have enough that much business that you cannot do on by yourself anymore, then
Right.
you want to hire somebody to take something of your plate.
Hmm.
And the other school of thought, if you can say that way, they're like first hire, then create the business for that person. So
Mm.
I feel like until you really try and kind of see which one works for you, you cannot make decision. But maybe might be too late. So do you have any maybe? How do you do? I'm not asking like what do you think it's the right thing to do or to give any advice on that, because I feel like that's kind of tricky thing to give advice to somebody about that part.
Hmm.
But like how you approaching your company to that part? Like do you first hire and then create the market for
No.
them, or create the market and then hire?
No, I create the market first. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I think, you know, a mistake that a lot of business owners make is they try to do it on their own,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and as the business grows, there's only so much they can do.
Yeah.
And so they get to a place where, you know, instead of being the employer, you
Mm-hmm.
know, they're the employee of the company.
Yeah.
You know, instead of working on growing their business, you know, they're working within the business
Mm-hmm.
and they don't need to be there.
Yeah.
So the solution there is at that point, that's when you need to look at hiring.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now that's where the budget comes in
Yeah.
because you've got to project those costs.
Yeah.
You know, when do you want to hire those employees? Okay. This is where you need to get your revenue up to where, you know, you're not just paying salaries for the
Mm-hmm.
employees. You know, you may have benefits.
Yeah.
You have payroll taxes. You have workers' comp, you know,
Mm-hmm.
insurance that you have to pay on top of that. So
Yeah.
you got to take all that into consideration. You have to scale, and you have to budget for that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's not as if really, I don't recommend. Oh gosh, I've got too much going on right now. I need to hire somebody now. At that point, it's kind of too late. You need
Yeah.
to be looking ahead,
Mm-hmm.
and really be thinking. You don't want to get to that point really where you're overwhelmed and you have to have that person. You want
Okay.
to be able to plan to hire that
Mm-hmm.
person.
Just kind
Okay.
of to fit naturally, like to have some kind of smooth that transition in
Yeah, and
growing
just
your
to
team. And
scale financially to be able to afford it.
yeah.
Like I said, we need to get our revenue in order to hire these two people. This is what our overhead's going to be,
Yeah.
and we need to get our revenue up to here,
Mm-hmm.
to meet that overhead.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you want to prepare for that. And that's where that business plan comes in. I
Okay.
was telling you about. You need to project for when you feel like you're going to need to hire those employees, so you're not waiting till the last minute.
Yeah.
You've planned for it,
To,
and so it's you're ready to make that hire.
and did you have experiences maybe while working with all these different businesses in different industries at the same time?
Mm-hmm.
Like, did you have any experience with businesses that they like to hire a person like business owner or manager? He is the one who is hiring their staff, versus some people who now I see that's very popular, like to hire HR agency to hire for you.
Well,
Like,
yeah.
is there any?
Mm-hmm.
Did you have that situation in
Oh yeah,
business?
that's I was talking about that before about outsourcing,
Mm-hmm.
especially with HR.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people think, gosh, hiring an fractional HR firm, that has to be expensive to do that. It's not. There are HR firms out there that are very affordable
Okay.
and either charge on a project basis or an hourly basis.
Mm-hmm.
But can be very affordable,
Okay.
and you're dealing with things that you don't need to be dealing with.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
When it
Exactly.
comes to issues and employees and hiring and firing,
Mm-hmm.
especially, you need experienced people, in those roles that can help guide you through that.
That makes sense. And like in your company, like how long do you give a chance to somebody who start working for you in order to see if that person really can bring some value to your team? Like, are you patient with that, or you're one of these guys who are like, yeah, like if you're within a month you don't deliver what you promised, kind of let's replace the
Yeah,
person.
well, you have to have a 90-day,
Mm-hmm.
period there, to try it out and see how it goes.
Yeah, yeah.
Really for both ways.
Ah, okay.
Within 30 days, you're going to know.
Yeah, what's going on there?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, there are things that it could be my fault, that I'm not training that person, effectively,
Mm-hmm.
but it also could be they're just not the right fit. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
not going to work.
And that's basically why I ask, like, like I guess one of the main concerns I hear when people like talking about outsourcing
Mm-hmm.
HR in hiring process,
Mm-hmm.
like because I never done that, so I'm just asking for your experience, like. Do you have? Did you see that these businesses they have issue like because HR doesn't know how that person is going to really fit in the culture
Yeah.
of that company, or maybe just as a person, if it's a small business and I don't know 5 people there,
Mm-hmm.
is that person is going to really fit with the business owner, if they're going to naturally kind of fit as people, not just when it comes to business itself.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know that 100%,
Mm-hmm.
but a good HR um, uh, firm is going to know, they're going to know what they're looking for,
Yeah.
you know. Um, one of my business coaches actually performs, or she does DISC,
Mm-hmm.
test,
Yeah.
to help, employers to know and clients know, the personalities of the people that they're
Yeah.
that they're interviewing, which I think is very effective.
Yeah,
Very
yeah.
effective.
There is a bunch of these different approaches when it comes to different personalities, how they test
Yeah.
that part, and
Right.
yeah, like
Right.
yeah, that's really helpful, and I think that outsourcing like as much as you can seems like it's really the best way to go, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, for that, we're talking about the fractional CFO.
Yeah.
So many businesses cannot afford to have that person on
Mm-hmm.
time,
Yeah.
full time. And same with marketing, and we
Mm-hmm.
talked about HR too.
And for your specific business, what you do, like
Mhm.
if I want to hire somebody to do full-time job for my company,
Mhm.
how much uh, I would have to pay that person versus if I just outsource and hire you to do that for me.
Oh, you mean as far as contract
Yeah.
goes? Yeah, that's a good. Well, that's where the HR comes in too,
Mm-hmm.
because there are some strict stipulations at the IRS, and they're really getting strict on this too. As far as an employee or a person that's working for you, whether, and I don't want to get into the specifics,
Yeah.
but whether that person, needs to be classified as an employee
Mm-hmm.
or can be on contract,
Yeah.
Instead. Contract, of course, is going to be less expensive because you're not paying the payroll taxes,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Um, and so there are advantages, either way. I mean, I've been told by business attorneys that I always thought that contract employees were easier to let go,
Oh, okay.
but than employees. But
It's not.
that's not necessarily.
Oh,
the
okay. I didn't
case.
know that.
Yeah.
So, and why is that?
There because when you're on contract, you've signed some legal.
Ah, okay. So you have more obligations.
Yeah, you have to be really careful.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
really
Yeah.
have to
See,
be
I didn't
really
even
careful.
think about that.
Uh,
But that's a really good thought.
I mean, all of my associates right now are on contract.
Oh, okay.
Right now,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't directly supervise them, which is the key.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but that's going to need to change
Yeah.
at some point. So.
And like, are you one of the owners who likes? But obviously, like, it seems like you're not one of these who likes to micromanage people and to be always on top of head. So do you feel like it's better always to kind of give some structure to employees and then let them do what they know
let
and
them grow.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
within
Let
the
them
company,
grow.
basically,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I've worked for people before who micromanaged,
Yeah.
and it's not pleasant. I never
Yeah.
liked it. I don't know of anybody that would like that.
Yeah, I feel like
but
that's
it's a
old school,
control
but
thing. It's a
there is some
control.
people
Yeah.
and corporations as well who like to do that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And you mentioned earlier in conversation that you have associates and you have some partners and you have to outsource stuff, but also like what I'm interested is
Well, you said partners?
partners,
No, I don't have partners.
associates, and
Well-
certain partners for. Do you outsource marketing or they're
Oh yeah,
really-
okay. Well,
Mhm.
I want to make sure I'm clear about
Yeah.
what you're saying. Partner, for instance, Maverick Business Partners.
Mhm.
We have that partners on there because we actually partner with our clients.
okay.
And so when you refer to partners, though, you're talking about my
So
associates.
I was going in
Okay.
that direction.
Okay.
So
Sorry about that. I just wanted.
yeah, it's better to be on the same page.
Yeah.
So thank you for clarifying. So when you're starting, like there's a lot of different types of businesses, and like there's some family businesses, especially when it comes to restaurants and stuff like that. And but also there's some people who are like, no, I don't want to involve my family. I don't want to. Somebody's like, I don't want to see my wife at work and at home.
Yeah.
Some of them, they're like, yeah, I just don't want to do it because then I cannot be super professional. We cannot separate family relation and business relation. Some people are all for that. Just let's grow business within the family.
Sure.
So, like, do you have any opinion either or you just think that depends on the situation?
It depends on the situation and really what the exit strategy is for the owner. If
Okay.
the owner wants to keep the business within the family,
Mhm.
then he has to have the family in there working.
Okay.
I've always I've been a firm believer that you don't do business with friends or family members.
Oh, okay. And
because
because
it's
of
very
fights
rare,
and stuff, or
very rare that it works out.
Yeah.
I have known of special situations. It's rare where it did, but yeah, I just think it's always like I said, unless you want to keep that business in the family.
yeah.
I just think it's safer not to do
Not to
business
do.
with family and friends.
I feel like when I was, I'm not a lot. I'm 31, but like I always wanted to have my own business, and I was always doing something on my own. And I feel like when I was really really young, I think first thing that I started to do by myself was when I was 18 or 19, something like that. But I feel like at that point I wasn't confident
Yeah.
if I can really do what I'm had to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like at that point I was always looking for somebody to partner with, like, and that was usually my friends.
Yeah, sure.
And that was usually like end up the way how you said, because
Yeah,
you think you're good friends, so you think naturally just gonna kind of
yeah,
flow to business, and that energy just gonna be copy paste, and that you
yeah.
can replicate that. But sometimes I feel like that structure, it's not the same. Like friendship and business doesn't necessarily mean that if you're good friends that you can do business together.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to money.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
comes down to your pocketbook,
Yeah.
and it's really difficult to, make those work, I think.
Yeah, and also what I saw, like a lot of that kind of situation when people start with family, friends, they don't put a lot of things on paper, like agreements,
Ooh,
stuff.
okay, yeah,
It's always like we sit in Sunday lunch, we talk, and you're like, how much is gonna be my salary? That much. What is my duty? That is gonna be your duty.
right,
And there's nothing written there. And then
yeah.
at some point there's some complaint, there's some fight, and usually happen about misunderstandings, right?
Oh yeah.
Do you have
Mhm.
that kind of
Mhm.
situation to your career? Not in your company, but like seeing that in other businesses,
I've seen it in other businesses
right?
in the past. Yeah, yeah. That's what I was referring to before.
Mm-hmm.
It works well for a little bit,
Yeah.
but it's just you come up on situations that are very sensitive.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, you're talking about not having things in writing, though, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean that was one
Yeah,
of the issues that
because
I've seen.
I see before, because they are family members, that you don't need that. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, like in terms of yeah, kind of we are family, we trust each other, like, and sometimes people like, why should I sign that? Like with prenups, if we sign a prenup, that means that you don't love me or you don't trust me, or who
Yeah,
knows, like you
right.
have different approaches to that, right?
Yeah.
So I feel I've seen, and I had in my experience as well, like 10 years ago, like you start working with somebody, you're like, okay, can we just sign a contract on that? They're
Yeah.
like, yeah, you don't trust me, you don't believe what I just promised or whatever,
It's
like, and
business,
that
though,
can be,
man. It's
yeah,
business.
tricky.
And one thing I will recommend to every business owner: find you a
Mm-hmm.
good business attorney.
Okay.
Find you a good business attorney, because that business attorney, they're going to look out for you. You're going to pay them,
Mm-hmm.
but it's better to get those things in writing at the onset, and it's really better. Of course, a lot of people are using AI,
Yeah.
for that now.
Yeah.
But you really want you really want to make sure you protect yourself and have those agreements in writing.
That makes sense. And like, I feel like it's always good to learn from somebody else's mistakes, right? Which not necessarily means that's what's going to happen,
Uh-huh.
because like you listen, but somehow like unless up to the moment you really fail, then you really don't think that's possible outcome,
Hmm.
and you don't really learn a lesson until you fail by
Right.
yourself.
Yeah.
But now I can see like the older I am, sometimes I can learn somebody else's mistakes. So can you share like what would be some mistake that at that time you thought, oh my God, this is disaster, this is the end of the world, and then turns out to be the best thing that could happen to you and your business? Or maybe that was really just a fail that you have to pivot and like go in different direction, maybe start some other business, open other company, or
Hmm.
provide
Hmm.
different kind of service, any of that kind of mistake influenced your path in business?
So you're asking me a mistake that I made that I thought was really bad at the time, but it
Yeah.
ended up being good.
Yeah, like you had some investment, you hire somebody, a lot of people at the same time thinking that you're gonna develop your business
Right.
faster than you will,
Yeah.
or
Hmm.
you targeted some market that was completely failed, you invested a lot of money in marketing that was a disaster, or anything that down that line, like kind of that could
Hmm.
happen.
Hmm. Well, I mean, yeah, I've had a couple of instances where I really did not do my homework
Mm-hmm.
and really plan for some agreements that I had
Mm-hmm.
with individuals,
Okay.
and I guess yeah, what came good out of that was I learned.
Okay.
And it was at the early stages of my business too,
Mm-hmm.
which is the time to do it. That's when
Yeah,
you want
yeah.
to do
You don't want to, when you have a huge
it.
revenue, you don't want to make mistake then, right?
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, it can be expensive, but it can be a very good lesson, not
Yeah.
to do it again.
Yeah, and like I feel like a lot of people are just afraid of making mistakes, right?
Oh yeah.
So like you as a really, I mean, at least comparing to me, way more experienced business person, like and businessman, like do you feel like do you look not down, but in a way, kind of you don't look serious to people who kind of had like five businesses and failed, and they're starting the sixth one, or
Yeah.
you think like you have like certain amount of time to really try if you're really talented to even consider yourself to be a business owner, or after you fail, I don't know, for example, three times, then you should really give up and maybe really think to be only employee.
Well,
Is there
I
any like
mean,
one size fits all answer or not?
yeah. I mean, um, so there've been gosh, there are a lot of people, very successful people, who have failed a lot.
Yeah.
To get there. You know what I find, Marco, a lot of times I will see um, clients that are doing really well.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and for some reason, I don't know if they get burned out, but they just all of a sudden decide, I just don't want to be in business anymore.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be a business. I don't want to be in business. I wasn't made to be a business person. But
Yeah.
you know what? They go and 3 months down the road, they open up a new business.
Yeah, yeah. Like just kind of
Yeah,
cannot get out of that role sometimes.
yeah. I mean, I think they just. I mean, I always tell clients, especially before opening another business in addition to the business I have now,
Mm-hmm.
is to solidify that one business you have right now.
Yeah.
Solidify it as far as get it organized. Get it to a place where it's profitable.
Mm-hmm.
And then at that point maybe consider starting a new business, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
even expanding.
Yeah.
But you want to make sure before you do that, you want to make sure that the present business that you have is on solid ground.
Yeah.
I don't like to say a well-oiled machine,
Yeah.
but it's at a place where you've got the right people in place. Your cash flow is really good. You've got your budget set up.
Mm-hmm.
You've got your 2, 3, 5 year plans set in place.
Oh, okay.
And then at that point maybe consider
And
starting a new.
and how far do you look for your company? Like, do
Mhm.
you plan like 5 years up front, or you
Mhm.
go year by year, which you obviously don't do since you have your goal in 4 years and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
So, or is that like a industry specific thing that you decided to be 4 year? That's my target, or that's something that people like all over in any industry can apply the same rule.
No, I think that was a goal that was set when I first started the company 10
Mm-hmm.
years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, to sell it in 10 years.
And is it
Yeah.
something that you're like, yeah, I just want to do it,
Uh-huh.
or kind of just threw some number from your head, or that was the result of some like deep analytics that you had to do,
Well,
or
you're talking about the
or it's
300
combination?
clients, to get 300
Yeah.
clients. Well, I know what I need my gross revenue to be to sell it at the
Mhm.
price, EBITDA,
Okay.
that where I want it to, where I need it to be as far as gross
Mhm.
revenue goes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
And
that's where the
mhm.
300 clients
Okay,
comes
okay. And is there like different approach? Like, do you have to basically know upfront when you're starting your business? Are you
in. Mhm.
developing your business and planning to sell one day, and when that's gonna be, or you just start, or it can happen that you start your business and then down the road you're like, yeah, I just wanna plan some exit strategy, and how
Mhm.
far upfront you have to plan that?
Mhm. Well, gosh, it doesn't necessarily have to be sell. Excuse me, your exit
Mm-hmm.
strategy doesn't have to be necessarily selling your business.
Oh, okay.
You could be handing it down to your family,
Oh, okay, that's a good point.
or you could be handing it to your
Mm-hmm.
employees.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't necessarily have to have anything to do with selling it.
Yeah.
But I think it's different. I think it's different for different people. I know in my case, when I first started, Maverick, I never dreamed that it could have the potential that it could have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like I was talking about before, logistically, we really couldn't have that many clients.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
And
know, but
now
then
after
with the,
COVID,
yeah, with the virtual meetings, then I mean it's unlimited.
it just
Our plan
exploded.
is to go national.
That's
with what we're doing.
I'm really happy for you. I mean, I really like, especially like after conversation we had the other day. Like, I mean, obviously, like, you can see in between the lines when you talk and just your attitude. You can see that you know what you do and you know what you're talking about, and just like I love to listen to you. To be honest,
appreciate that.
and but how you, I guess this is more like not even that much business, but how you manage to keep that balance between being ambitious, wanting to grow, and
Mm-hmm.
at the same time you're a really humble person. As at least that's my impression. So how you balance these two things,
As far as the ambition
and
and
just staying humble in private.
humble,
Like when we are talking and smoking cigar, you're a super humble, nice guy, and then we start talking business. You're like, I don't know if you're running the best company in U.S. So it's just kind of
wow, I appreciate that. You
yeah,
know what? I think it's just just being grateful.
yeah,
You know, it is just being grateful.
yeah.
Um, I've got a lot to be grateful for, and part of that, my staff.
Mm-hmm.
The people that helped me. My friends, my mastermind group.
Yeah, yeah.
They've helped me to get to my business to where it is,
That's what,
and so I think that humbles me.
that.
Gratitude produces that, I think, naturally.
Yeah, I mean, it's always really a pleasure to meet people like you. I mean, you have way more experience, life experience, business experience, and when I talk to you, I never feel like I'm somewhere lower than you. At least you don't give me that feeling,
That's
and I can
nice.
just look up at you as a mentor, not in a like mentorship like I call you every day, but like I
Ah,
just kind of
mm,
have some to see somebody that you can look up to,
yeah, I
kind of stuff.
appreciate that. Appreciate that.
And I know that you have big family as well, like you have a
Hmm.
wife, kids,
Hmm.
grandkids,
I do. Yep.
and like I also feel like that there is always that question: am I giving to myself too much to business, or do I work more than I spend time with my family? And sometimes when you spend time with your family,
Hmm.
I mean, I have that, my wife has that feeling as well. Sometimes you work a lot, then you're like, oh my gosh, they just hang out more with kids and family and partners. Sometimes when you do that, then you're like, yeah, but I'm not with clients. So
Yeah, that's tough.
how to, what's the formula?
Especially as a business owner, especially as a sole business owner, because it's all on your shoulders. I
Mm-hmm.
think what you have to do, Marco, I think you have to, especially if you're married, if you have children, but your friends too.
Mm-hmm.
I think you need to, you're going to work probably at least 6 days a week, at
Mm-hmm.
first. But if you can take that one day,
Yeah.
and just put everything aside and dedicate that,
Mm-hmm.
to your family and to your friends too.
Yeah.
That can help go a long way. It can be refreshing to you too. You know.
And that's basically like nowadays when you hear all these influencers in business,
Hmm.
they're like hustle. There's always somebody who's gonna outwork you, and
Yeah.
there's always somebody when you're sitting down and do nothing. There's somebody who does something,
Uh-huh.
and if you don't constantly do something, that you're gonna just go down. That your business is gonna fail. And I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes
Yeah.
like there is so much pressure if you really listen to these things all the time, then you always feel like you're not delivering enough.
Hmm.
But where would be the healthy line? Like you said, like work 6 weeks,
Six
sorry,
days.
6 days a
6 days a week.
week.
Yeah.
But like, but does that mean like work through Christmas, work through Thanksgiving? Don't go
Hmm.
there like wake up at 5 in the morning, like what was Tony Robinson, one of these guys said, like wake up at 5, go to sleep at 9, work 14 hours a day, before sleeping read 10 books and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Well,
And
first of all, that's only going to last so long before you get
yeah.
burned out. I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
I felt that
I
after
mean,
2 days.
yeah. I mean, really, it is, and I know where you're coming from. I know what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But especially most of us work from home now. You
Yeah.
know, that start a new business, we work from home, and that really makes it difficult. If you've got a home office,
Mm-hmm.
that's where you have to set your boundaries. That's why these are my work hours. 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, whatever,
Yeah.
until 5 or 6 o'clock at night. And
Mm-hmm.
you really have to discipline yourself. You schedule your workload just as if you were going into the office,
Yeah.
and you set those times. and you set those boundaries, and you know, you shut the office down. You leave the office. You leave the home office.
Yeah.
You know, at 6 o'clock.
And do you make yourself available to your family? Like, for example, like you set your hours 9 to 5 to be in the office, and then at 2 o'clock, your wife is like, "Hey, can you go and pick up this and that?" And you're like, "Okay, I'll do it." Or you say, "No, I'm at work."
No, if I'm available, I'll do
Do it.
that. Yeah.
Okay, because like I feel like a lot of people struggle with that part, and I have like since I do insurance, and when we gather, like usually we are on Monday and Friday in the office
Yeah.
in the morning, and but we don't have to go there, and but there's a lot of people going there, and when you ask why, they're like, yeah, because I just cannot. If I'm at home, I just cannot focus on what I do. A lot
Yeah.
there's that distractions from family,
That is
kids,
true.
whatever.
That is very, yeah. That's very common.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I can see that. You know, a lot of people if will do the e-spaces or whatever. You know,
Yeah.
for that reason. You know,
Yeah.
which that's beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but yeah, I think it's just a matter of setting your boundaries. You know, I mean, it's easy for me because it's just me and my wife at home.
Ah, okay, yeah.
You know,
So,
the only thing I deal with Kim, my wife, is going to the gym. She doesn't understand why I don't go to the gym early in the morning.
ah, okay. And you're like, that's
But
just
no,
how it
it's
is.
always at 5 or 6
That's
o'clock at
awesome.
night.
Ah,
You
okay.
know, but anyway, you know, it's a bit easier for me because I don't have kids at home.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And now since you mentioned gym, that wasn't even my plan, but like, so obviously seems like you have a good balance and like lifestyle balance, right?
Try to.
And how much do you dedicate your time to health, like
Mhm.
going to gym, and do you eat healthy? Do you think that's important for business people or?
Yes, especially with the stress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I try to make it to the gym 5 times a week.
Oh, okay,
You
that's
know,
that's good.
um, but yeah, I think it's helped me tremendously. You know, with the stress. The diet, you know, it's better
Here or
than it
there.
used to be.
Okay.
I don't eat fried foods as much, thank
Okay.
God. Even though I miss it a lot. But anyway, yeah, it's important, especially as you get older. You know, it's important because the stress can really get to you.
That's what I see. Like a lot of people, they're just, and I mean I can be wrong, but there's a lot of people who are super in a fit, like good shape, but they're really not successful in what they do, like when it comes to business.
Mm.
But in the other hand, there's a lot of successful business people, but they're just kind of they don't take a lot of care about themselves and
Yeah.
don't go to the gym, don't work out, don't eat healthy. They don't.
Mm.
And one of the theories that I've heard is like that fit people, they expect that there is a shortcut in business for some reason, and they don't have much time to kind of replicate their habits from fitness to business.
Yeah.
And in the other hand, there's a bunch of business people who are like spend 30 years building a company, but then they just expect one weight loss shot to solve all the problems when it comes to health.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's
Mm-hmm.
same mindset, but it's not always easy to
Oh,
kind of
interesting.
replicate
Yeah.
one to another, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, so basically we are about now to wrap up, and I just want to basically at the end to thank you that you managed to have 1 hour of your time,
Well, thank you, Marco. I appreciate
and
the
yeah,
opportunity.
to talk
Man.
to me and to share
been
something
great.
about your business, your mindset, approach. And I feel like there's a bunch of people around here who just always don't know even where to start, how to approach to business, when is the good time to open, to hire, to
Mm-hmm.
outsource things. And I feel like you answered a lot of good questions today and
Oh,
gave us
good.
some good answers. Like, do you have anything at the end that maybe you think that is important that we didn't mention, or we covered most of the things?
Yeah, I mean, once again, you know, our mission, Maverick Business Partners, is to help small business flourish, help them to
Mm-hmm.
be profitable. All right, and once again, the bottom line, so is a business owner has to know the numbers. He has to know his numbers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, really to help his business grow, really for it to survive.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what is it, 20%, 24%, I think, failed in the first year.
Yeah.
45, I think, fell within 5 years.
65, 10 years. You
Yeah,
said?
yeah. And so, your odds are against
Wow.
you. Whenever you begin, whenever you first start the business, they really are. But if you have, first of all, hire your bookkeeper.
And then once you have foundation, you can build a roof.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Hire
a
a
good way to
bookkeeper
say.
because it's just it's vital. It really is. And like I said, a lot of people don't think that they can afford it. We're very affordable. We really are. Rates are very affordable,
Hmm.
and I think it's crucial. I really do. Really
That's
do.
amazing. Yeah, thank you for sharing all your experience and thoughts on all these topics. And I hope that I'm gonna see you in Cigar Bar
Oh, you
any day
bet,
next
man.
week, maybe, or week after that. We'll see.
Absolutely. That's a fun crew too.
Right.
Yeah, that's a fun crew.
And
We
also
have a good time.
for the end, like now I remember, like would you suggest people like at least like from this area, like Franklin, Nashville, Tennessee, to join BNI and or any chamber of commerce? Is that like you said that helped a lot
I
to your
think it's
business as
crucial
well?
for a small business owner. Yeah, especially if it's in the trades,
Mm-hmm.
especially,
Yeah.
because it's very competitive. Yeah, like I said, BNI has been very instrumental. In fact, I would say probably 90% of the clients that I
Oh, wow.
have right now are probably either directly or indirectly from our frontliners
So
out
no
there.
social media, no Instagram, no TikTok,
Not
BNI.
yet, BNI so far. Yeah, I
That's
mean I
awesome.
have it, but I'm just now starting to develop it.
That's awesome.
The social media, but yeah, I mean there are a lot of great networking groups out there though, outside of BNI.
Yeah.
There really are.
Okay, so that will be all for today. I'm gonna put a link below the video, so
Hmm.
people like
Okay.
from your website, and if you
Okay.
have like any social media, we can share that part as well, so
Perfect.
people can reach
Okay.
out to you,
Hmm.
your email, phone number,
Hmm.
and if people feel that they need a bookkeeper, but Barclay told you that you have to have bookkeeper at the very beginning, so do it as
Absolutely.
soon as you can. So all this information is gonna be accessible below the video.
Right. Okay.
Thank you,
All
Barclay, one
right.
more time,
All
and see
right.
you at some point again.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate
Thank you
you.
very much.
Hmm.
Thanks, man. It was good.
That was good. That was great.